you have some empathy for the other side? Like, have you tried to consider the other side? Being so scared, believe in your government, believe in your healthcare officials, trying not to fall into what other people call be like Facebook misinformation or just internet misinformation. Can you empathize a little bit with some of the ones that are kind of more lost with their fear?
I'll let you go, Brandon.
Yeah, I definitely can. I honestly feel bad for them. I really feel bad for them actually. Just because what we know is just so different from what's like what they believe in, and like firsthand, like Leigh was saying, being in Ottawa, I experienced it, and then I turn on the TV and just see something so completely different. It was like questioning my reality when I was in Ottawa downtown. I was texting some of my friends. I was like, this is like propaganda in real time if I've ever seen it. Like thinking back to like history class, I was like, this is definitely what it'd be, because it's almost comical from what I saw with my own eyes to like what's on the TV. So I definitely feel sympathetic for people who buy absolutely everything the government says. Um, but at the same time, it's like a two-way street, right? If someone doesn't want to hear out what I have to say and will get angry towards me, I can still be sympathetic. But then there comes a time where I'm just like, suit yourself type of thing, and I can't continue to extend myself to continually try and like bridge that gap between the differences of, I guess, opinion. But yeah, I would say I have sympathy, but when you're locked up for a while and like treated poorly, it's hard to dig deep to pull that sympathy like out of you and still have it when, like, for instance, you can't go to a restaurant, you can't go to a gym, you couldn't go to school, and like most of your friends or family aren't really doing anything about it or even saying anything about it. So it's hard to be like put all that aside and still be sympathetic, but I think it's necessary to do so.
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah,
mean,
Leigh?
yeah, for myself, the way that I think of it is these people, the people who are they honestly believe the narrative that is being peddled to them, and who are not so nice to this side. I try to understand and be compassionate of the fact that they are being abused and traumatized, essentially. I mean, as Brandon was saying, it's very hard to sort of come to terms with the fact that people can treat one another that way. And both of us, I'm sure so many people have had experiences with loved ones doing that and doing things that you couldn't imagine them doing, getting rid of you, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, like I had a conversation with someone, they were saying, we can't push them away once they start to realize what's happening, rather than saying I told you so. As good as that may feel to say after 2-3 years, it's just important to say I'm glad you're finally here, I'm glad you're here, and welcome, like come on over, kind of thing. Because we really need to be able to forgive what happened and just bring people to the side and wake them up when we can, and understand that they've just been seriously abused too. So doesn't make what they did right. It's not exactly an excuse. But yeah, you just need to get past it, I think.
I would concur with that as well because I think at some point soon there's going to be a big realization that they made some mistakes. There was a couple holidays where families were pushing family members to go and get vaxxed just to show up. There was a lot of families separating during Christmas and stuff because of this. And I think at some point in the future, there's going to be mothers and sisters and aunts who were pushing other family members who are not going to feel so good about themselves
Yeah.
in the future. We're going to learn long term. Was there anything wrong with menstruation cycles? We were told at the very beginning, don't worry, there's not a problem. But now we find out, oh yeah, quite a bit. Are we going to find out in another year or so that young boys are affected? Are we going to find out other problems? And I can imagine a lot of mothers and stuff. Yeah, they're going to be very upset. And they were kicking us for a couple of years, but I think that just made us tougher and made us stronger. And we know how to get up out of the dirt and brush ourselves up. They don't. It's a very sensitive group that's going to get I think very, very rudely awakened to their actions, and there might be a lot of remorse on their side. I think we're going to see a lot of anger, though. The first couple stages of grief are not fun. Um, denial, anger.
I'm seeing
If you
denial
look,
right now.
yeah, those are good signs for us because that means we're making our way through the stages of grief with them, and they will come around. But I do think we who kind of saw the writing on the wall and didn't fall for the propaganda, I think history is going to be looking at us to stand up a little bit stronger this time around because that next group is going to need it. They're not as strong as we were. We were able to get up and get into groups and find some like minds and celebrate in Ottawa for a bit, but they're not going to have the same thing. There's not going to be a big parade across Canada to celebrate remorse. Um, so there's going to be a lot of lonely and upset and scared and confused people over the
Yeah.
next, say, 24 months as this vaccine stuff and masks and all that starts to roll out. For example, today I just saw an interview with one of the scientists from CNN who was really pushing masks back in the day. She just released an article on how her children have been damaged by it and their speech has been delayed and she will no longer mask her children. Um, she should have known better. She's a
Yeah.
scientist. There was a lot of people talking about it back then. We knew long time braces and other stuff with the mouths of children for decades that it can stunt a whole bunch of things. So this is not one of those that we found out after the fact, but I still have empathy for her. So even though she was on CNN a year and a half ago saying we have to do this, and I think her exact quote were the unvaccinated are untrustworthy. So that's why she was asking for masks because unvaxxed people won't give you the status because we're untrustworthy is the implication there. And I think people like that who now realizes because she had young children that she masked up probably all the time, they have delayed speech now, and that's just an example with her. So she has come out and said no more for her and her family. But that's a lot of damage was done, and we're going to see a lot of people like that realizing what they did to their kids, what they did to their family, and what they did to themselves. And I think we can keep talking about what we went through and how much of a struggle it was. But honestly, I think we're going to do better than them. I think in the end, we're going to be the ones that have to pick them up.
Yeah.
And
And we're mentally prepared almost for all this too,
well,
right?
that's kind of what happened. They kicked us and they beat us, and we were like in the boxing gloves, taking all the hits,
Yeah.
and we got toughened up. We got used to getting up and walking into a room and getting eyeballed. We didn't mind. Walking into the grocery store with no mask, I didn't mind. So now when they need the help, I think we should be ready for them because it's going to come. And if you just look at the 90%, 91% success rate is what they're toting for vaccines, that means for every one of us, there's going to be 9 of them that we need to help. Um, so
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah.
we can keep an open mind and an open heart on what's about to come, because even though our oppressors oppressed us, they're going to be very weak. They're going to struggle with the next phase because they're not built like us. They're not strong and critical, and they don't even. Can you imagine if you lived in a world where your government told you everything, and then all of a sudden, after an inquiry that happens, you find out your government lied to you, and they're still your government?
Yeah.
Where do
It's
you go
scary.
with that? Yeah, where
And
do you
then
go
to
with that?
how you treated people, you have to reflect on your own actions that you were pushing people and coercing people into doing something that turns out maybe isn't entirely safe. And there are reactions happening and all this sort of stuff. But as you're saying, sort of in the beginning of this, like, did we forget the lessons we learned when we were young to treat people well? I was gonna say,
We
yeah,
did.
just people did. But for us too, when this now comes around, are we gonna kind of they've punched us. Do we punch them back when they're down? No. Let's be the bigger person, which I think a lot of people have been throughout all this and try to be understanding, try to have open dialogue and conversation. Whenever someone reaches out to Students Against Mandates, we try to respond calmly, rationally, and say, I'd like to extend an offer to have sort of like face to face Zoom call or conversation with you. I know you're upset and frustrated. Let's talk about it. And 99% of the time they say no, but let's remember that going forward when they're down. Are we going to kick them further down, or we have an opportunity to unite people again? It's been divided for years. I think we should take the unite the country rather than keep it separated. I don't want that.
Yeah, I think you're right on that, and I think the tide is turning. So